All right. Hey, well, good morning, Wildlife. How we doing on this daylight saving Sunday morning? Yeah. Hey, by a show of hands, who was like pulled out of bed by their parents this morning? Yeah. Like, just you were like ripped out of the bed this morning because your parents like, we gotta go to church, and you're like, but mom, like, it's crazy how like 1 hour can make a huge difference. I really think we should get rid of daylight savings. Anyway, hey, I'm excited to be with you guys. Yeah, it's sign a petition or something. Hey, I'm excited to be with you guys on this Sunday morning. If you and I haven't had the chance to meet, my name is Johnny. I'm on staff here in Wildlife, and what we're about to head into is the time of teaching. So a great way to follow along as we head into this time is with what we call a message note sheet. If you have one, wave it over your head so you know you have one. It should be underneath your chair. Hey, this is a great way to follow along. It's a great way for you to pursue God in this time. If you notice on the front and the back, there's some fill in the blanks. The fill-ins are going to be on the screens behind me. Use that as a great tool to help you follow along. If a great way for you to focus and pay attention is by drawing as you're listening, use that as a great tool. There's some space along the side. Use that. All I ask is you don't be a distraction to the people around you, meaning you don't talk during this time. This is not an opportunity to go to the bathroom like 10 times and like clog the toilet, because then Ryan has to deal with that. And we don't want you to have to deal with that. There's more important things you have to deal with. All right, so this is not a time to be talking to your neighbor. This is not a time to be lighting them on fire. This is a time for us to pursue God as we head into this time. Some of your faces as I said that were like, oh, is there time for that? Later. All right, hey, let's go and pray, and we will jump right in. Jesus, thank you so much for this time. Thank you for every 6th, 7th, and 8th grade student here this morning. Thank you for all of our staff that are serving these students so well. We ask just that this time would be an opportunity for us to focus as we listen and follow to what you have to say to us through your word. We ask that if we're coming in this morning just really exhausted, tired, not just because of daylight savings, maybe because we are truly exhausted, maybe had a hard week, maybe home is really rough right now. Jesus, wherever we're coming from, we know that you are good despite whatever is going on, and that means we can trust you. So Jesus, we ask that you just be with us, and it's in your name, amen. Hey, I still remember the day my life changed forever. And you're probably sitting in there, Johnny, was it the day you were married? No. Was the day your twins were born? No. It was the day I saw The Empire Strikes Back. Now, this is considered probably the best Star Wars movie ever. Has anyone ever seen The Empire Strikes Back? Hey, Jack, can we get that image on the screen for us? Like, this is probably the best Star Wars movie ever. And then right after this, I would say probably Rogue One. I love Rogue One so much. Now, if you've never seen this movie before, man, it is full of action. It's full of space battles, lightsaber duels, romance, but also there is a huge plot twist in this movie. Now, if you aren't familiar with a plot twist, simply put, a plot twist is when the story takes an unexpected turn. And if you've ever seen this movie before, you know that this movie has a huge plot twist. Now, if you've never seen this movie before, I'm so sorry you haven't lived yet. But in this movie, a huge plot twist is that we find out something huge about Darth Vader. Darth Vader is the big baddie, the big villain in this movie. And we find out that this guy is the father of Luke Skywalker. And this is sorry, spoiler word, but like, this is a huge deal because Luke is the hero in this story. And when you find out that Darth Vader is his father, everything changes. Now, I recently read an article that actually when this movie came out like 1 billion years ago, everyone thought that Darth Vader was lying or trying to trick Luke Skywalker for some reason, and they just could not believe that Darth Vader is Luke's father. And this is a huge plot twist because it changes the whole narrative. It changes the whole story. And I remember when I saw this for the first time, this was a big deal because you're like, wow, the villain is the father of the hero. That is a huge deal. And, I think there's something about a good plot twist we just love when we are watching a movie. Maybe it's a show on Disney Plus or Netflix, and it just kind of draws us in because, again, a plot twist is when the story takes an unexpected turn. You think it's going one way, and then boom, season 5 of Stranger Things turned out terrible. Like it is a huge plot. I haven't seen it, but it's a huge plot twist. Yeah, I have better things to do. But anyway, I think we love a good plot twist because it's dramatic, it's shocking, it's entertaining. There's something that when a good story changes up on us, man, it just draws us in. But it's something very different when a plot twist happens to us. That in a room this size, when something unexpected happens to us, something that's really just a huge bummer, man, we don't get excited. It's not exciting or awesome or cool. It is painful. Like maybe for some of us, that as we go through our lives, man, a huge plot twist might happen when a friend that you thought was a good friend, a loyal friend, betrays you by losing your trust or their trust. Or maybe for you, you are in school and you are getting all these A's in your classes and life is going really well. And then out of nowhere, you get your first B, which for me was an A in my mind. But like that just changes everything because it's not how you thought it should go. Or maybe a plot twist for you is something changes at home that is just super traumatic. That maybe for you, something in your life is just not going the way you thought it should or the way you thought it would. The truth is that in a movie, a plot twist, it draws us in. We lean in. We're on the edge of our seat. But in real life, when a plot twist happens to us, something that we did not expect, we tend to shut down. And the reason I start with that is we are starting this new series called Plot Twist. And what we're going to be looking at is we're going to be looking at a story found in the very first book of the Bible, known as Genesis. And we're going to look at this young man known as Joseph, and his whole life was full of plot twists, these twists and turns. And we are going to see that God still used him and God was still writing his story despite all the terrible things that happens to Joseph. Now, before we continue, I want to know, is anyone a sibling in this room? Like you have an older brother or an older sister, younger brother or sister, like any of us in here, only sibling, only child? Yeah, we're going to rule the world. Like we should start a club. No one else can come, just only child. Anyway, but hey, if you are a sibling in this room, you will probably be able to relate to this story in some way or another. Because in this story, Joseph is the youngest of 11 other brothers. And all of his brothers despise him and they hate him. And we're going to see the reason why later on. But this story of Joseph is full of plot twists. It's full of betrayal, temptation, restoration, patience. So what we're going to do this morning is I'm going to invite you to open up your Bibles. We're going to be in Genesis chapter 37. We're going to be starting in verse 1. Now, if you are brand new to the Bible, we say this often. In the first couple of pages of every physical Bible, there's what we call a table of contents. That is a great tool to help you find what page number is of a certain book in the Bible. But what's awesome about Genesis, it's the first book. So just start turning a couple of pages. If you've gone to like the Psalms or if you've gone to like Revelation, you've gone way too far. But Genesis is the very first book in the Bible. And we're going to be in chapter 37. And we're going to be starting in verse 1. All right, give me a thumbs up if you guys are there. Or like a woo. It's a little tired. We're a little tired this morning. Wow. Yeah. I loved earlier when Ryan and Indy were like, how you guys doing? You're all like, bye. Yeah. Anyway. All right, verse 1. So again, Genesis chapter 37, verse 1 says this. Jacob lived in the land where his father had stayed, the land of Canaan. This is the account of Jacob's family line. Let's jump down to verse 3. Now, Israel loved Joseph more than any of his other sons because he had been born to him in his old age. So Israel, another one named for Jacob, he was born, Joseph was born when Jacob was very, very old. So this is like, man, God's promised him this son and he's very old, so he loves him the most. And he made an ornate robe for him, kind of like a very colorful robe, something that was not very common in this part of the world, especially during this time. And it continues. When his brothers saw that their father loved him more than any of them, they hated him and could not speak a kind word to him. Joseph had a dream, and when he told it to his brothers, they hated him all the more. He said to them, listen to this dream that I had. we were binding sheaves of grain out in the field when suddenly my sheaf rose and stood upright, while your sheaves gathered around mine and bowed down to it. That's an interesting dream. Usually my dreams are just about tacos, but verse 8, his brothers said to him, do you then intend to reign over us? Will you actually rule us? And they hated him all the more because of his dream and what he had said. Then he had another dream, and he told it to his brothers. Listen, he said, I had another dream, and this time the sun and moon and 11 stars were bowing down to me. So these, sun and moon, this is like his dad and his mom, and the 11 stars are all of his brothers bowing down to him. And when he told his father as well as his brothers, his father rebuked him, kind of corrected him, and said, what is this dream you had? Will your mother and I and your brothers actually come and bow down to the ground before you? His brothers were jealous of him, but his father kept the matter in mind. So these dreams that Joseph is having are kind of what I call like downloads that God is giving to Joseph of something later on that's going to happen in Joseph's life. And we'll talk about that later on. Now, his brothers had gone to graze their father's flocks near Shechem, and Israel said to Joseph, as you know, your brothers are grazing the flocks near Shechem. Come, I am going to send you to them. Very well, he replied. So he said to them, go and see if all is well with your brothers and with the flocks and bring word back to me. So he's saying, hey, go check on your brothers, making sure everything's good. Then he sent him off to the valley of Hebron. When Joseph arrived at Shechem, a man found him wandering around in the fields and asked him, what are you looking for? He replied, I'm looking for my brothers. Can you tell me where they are grazing their flocks? They had moved on from here, the man answered. I heard them say, let's go down to Dothan. So Joseph went after his brothers and found them near Dothan. But they saw him in the distance, and before he reached them, they plotted to kill him. Huge plot twist. Took a very hard right turn there for a minute. Hopefully none of us in this room that have siblings have looked at them and be like, I'm going to kill you. Like, whoa, that's insane. All right. Well, that's what it says. Verse 19, here comes that dreamer. So they're responding to him kind of like in a way of like mockery, making fun of him. Like, oh, you have all these dreams. Here comes this dreamer. They said to each other, come now, let's kill him and throw him into one of these cisterns, kind of like a well, and say that a ferocious animal devoured him. Then we'll see what comes of his dreams. This is a huge plan. But when Reuben heard this, one of the older brothers, he tried to rescue him from their hands. Let's not take his life, he said. Don't shed any blood. Throw him into the cistern here in the wilderness, but don't lay a hand on him. Reuben said, this is to rescue him from them and take him back to his father. So one of the oldest brothers says, hey, let's not kill him. Let's throw him in a well. All right, that's better, I guess. But still, all these brothers really do hate Joseph because they are jealous of him. That maybe for you, you have a brother or a sister that hopefully, again, you won't try to kill them, but maybe you do have some jealousy towards them. Maybe you can kind of see yourself in the story a little bit. So when Joseph came to his brothers, they stripped him of his robe, the ornate robe he was wearing, and they took him and threw him into the cistern. The cistern was empty, and there was no water in it. I think that's kind of funny because they're let's throw him into this well. Maybe he'll just fall into the water, but there's no water in there. So imagine you throw your brother into the well expecting a splash, and you just hear a thud. You're like, oh. And what would you do in that next situation? For the brothers, they have a meal. So they says, as they sat down to eat their meal, they looked up and saw a caravan of Ishmaelites coming from Gilead. Their camels were loaded with spices, balm, and myrrh, and they were on their way to take them down to Egypt. So these men are headed down to Egypt, and these brothers see them, and they have a different plan of what to do with Joseph. Judah said to his brothers, what will you gain if we kill our brother and cover up his blood? Come, let's sell him to the Ishmaelites and not lay our hands on him. After all, he is our brother. Come on. Like, let's not kill him. Let's throw him in a well. Oh, there's no water in the well. Whoops. Let's sell him. He is our brother after all. Like, killing him, leaving him for dead, that's terrible, but let's make some money off of it. Our own flesh and blood, his brothers agreed. So when the Midianite merchants came by, his brothers pulled Joseph up out of the cistern and sold him for 20 shekels of silver. I looked it up. That's about like today, be like around 190 bucks. Like you can't even get like Chick-fil-A for that much right now, Silver to the Ishmaelites who took him to Egypt. So, hey, that's where we're going to pause this morning. But, hey, what a crazy beginning to this story. Now, again, we don't have time to keep going, but later on we see that Joseph ends up getting sold by these merchants to some men out in Egypt, and he's actually sold into slavery. And this is really where God is going to continue writing Joseph's story. But as we read this, probably a lot of us, this is not the story we would expect something to happen, especially like, so to speak, a hero in the Bible. Like Joseph really sets the tone for the rest of the Israel nation later on in the Bible. But man, what a wild story full of different plot twists and different turns and terrible brothers, by the way. Let's kill him. Nah, let's throw him down a well. Let's sell him. Like, whoa, that is insane. Later on, if we kept reading, we would see that they actually take blood from an animal and they put it on the robe that Joseph had. And they actually go to their father and they lie to Jacob, to Israel. And they say like, hey, your youngest son, your favorite son, has been murdered and devoured by an animal. And Jacob, he weeps, and they lie to their dad. Like, this is a crazy story. If you think you have family drama, huge family drama in this story, but we'll continue the story next weekend. But what I want to do with the time that we have is I want to kind of quickly walk through 3 key points that really come from what we call the big thing. So there in your note sheet, we have what we call the big thing. If you're new to wildlife, this is basically if we were to take a big step back and ask the question, like, what is this saying and how can we kind of dive deeper into what the Bible is sharing with us? So there in your note sheet, your first fill-in is this big thing. Write this down. Even when people hurt you, God still has a plan for you. Even when people hurt you, God still has a plan for you. Now, this doesn't mean the hurt isn't real, doesn't mean the hurt isn't terrible, but it does show that the hurt isn't the end. Like, this would be a terrible story if like it just ends right there. And I know that's where we pause, but like if it just ends right there and then we don't see what happens to Joseph later on, like that would be a terrible story. But God is not that kind of God. He continues to write our stories even when we feel like there is no way out. So what I want to do is I want to unpack this in 3 key ways. So again, even when people hurt you, God still has a plan for you. Number 1, your next fill-in is this. Write this down. Joseph's brothers betrayed him, but God didn't abandon him. Joseph's brothers betrayed him, and I would say like pretty severely, like let's try to kill him. Now let's throw him down a well. But God did not abandon Joseph. And the reason why we start with that first point is what we're going to talk about is that for some of us in this room, we feel like when life is not going our way, when we feel alone and just scared out of our minds, some of us believe the lie that God has forgotten about you, God has abandoned you. So for Joseph in his story, what we see is Joseph had his dad's favor. He had a special robe made by his dad. But more importantly, he had these big dreams from God, kind of like these downloads from God himself about what might happen later on in his story. And when you get a cool download, when I feel like God is sharing something with me, I get excited and I tell people. And that's what Joseph was doing. But his brothers, his parents hear this and they're going like, what are you going to do? Rule over us? And what we're going to see later on in this series is that actually happens a little bit, that we see Joseph is actually given a huge, what we call a promotion in life, where he actually becomes second in command of all of Egypt. And his parents actually need his help later on. But his brothers in this part of the story, they're full of jealousy, they're full of anger, and they have a huge attitude problem. So much so they rip off his robe, they throw him in a pit. They sold him basically into slavery, and they lied to their dad about it. Like, this isn't like a tease or like a prank. This is like not like a good April Fool's joke, all right? Like, this is a terrible things that happen. This is betrayal. Like, imagine you're Joseph in this story and you are thrown into a pit. Again, there's no water down there, so you just like, boom, you hit the bottom. Maybe you break your arm. I don't know. And you're sitting there dirty, alone, probably really cold. You're confused. You're like, hey, like, what happened? My brother is like, I was just going to check on them, and they like threw me down this pit. What is going on? Like, for me, like, I kind of picture it like this meme here on the screen. Can we pull that up, Jack? Like, he's probably sitting down in that pit, and he's just like, this is fine. Like, this is okay. Like, and maybe for you, life is going crazy right now. Everything feels like it is on fire, but like, this is fine. This is okay. Like, this might as well happen right now, right? And Joseph probably had the thought, like, God, where are you? Like, have you ever had that thought before, where life is just not going the way that you thought it should, and you go, God, where are you? Maybe is when a friend leaves. Maybe they move away. Maybe when people turn on you, when life flips. Maybe it's when your parents are fighting constantly and there's all this drama going on at home. Maybe it's when you feel like you are alone and you have no friends, and you're looking around, you're like, God, where are you? More importantly, God, what are you doing right now? And what we need to understand is we don't always understand and see the big picture of what's going on. But what's interesting in this part of the story is that in Genesis 37, we see like God is not present, it seems, in this part of the story at all. He doesn't say anything. He's not really mentioned at all. So the question is like, what is going on? But if you've ever read the Bible before, God is all over the story of the Bible. And the truth is that even though God doesn't say a word in this part of the story, his silence doesn't mean he's absent. That maybe for you, you're going through life right now and you aren't hearing from God. You feel like God is distant from you, and you're like, God, what the heck? Like, where are you right now? What you need to understand is just because God feels silent doesn't mean he's absent in your life. The bottom line is God can be working even in your life, even when you don't see it. Even when you don't feel it, God is always working in our story. Number 2 is this, write this down. Other people's choices don't cancel God's calling. Other people's choices don't cancel out God's calling. Like for Joseph, he had all these dreams that he received from God. God had shown him something about his future, that he's going to be given leadership responsibilities. He's going to be given purpose. He's going to be given influence later on in his life. But as he's sitting down in that pit, if I was Joseph, I would be like, God, is this what you have for me? Like, this can't be the leadership, the purpose, the influence that you promised me. Like, this can't be it. And have you ever had that thought where you realized if God has a plan for you, why does it feel like life is falling apart right now? Or maybe even so, you're like, man, if God is good, why does life not always feel good? And the truth is that your future is not controlled by someone else's choices. Meaning, man, God has you in his hand. God is a good God. He cares about you. If you remember from our last series going through the character of God, man, like he's our Father, and he's a good king, and a good king can be trusted. I love this verse in Isaiah 46. It's there on your note sheet. Why don't you follow along with me? God says this to Isaiah. He says, I say my purpose will stand, meaning God's purpose, what he has planned, it's going to happen no matter what. Whether or not you get enough sleep or not, like it's going to happen, and I will do all that I please. Notice it doesn't say my purpose will stand unless middle school gets incredibly hard. Like, no, God's purpose, his vision for our lives will always stand because that's who he is. God will do what he does. God is in control, and nothing surprises him. Like, imagine this, like Joseph is in the bottom of that pit. Do you think God was like, oh no, like what's going to happen next? Like, no, he knew exactly what was going on. This was all part of God's plan. And the plot twist is that this pit wasn't Joseph Joseph's ending, it was training ground for Joseph. That a lot of us in this room, we might be going through a hard season right now. And the truth is that when we go through hard situations, we go through what, as the Bible describes, trials, it's really designed to test us to see, hey, if you are going to still follow Jesus or not. It's designed to refine you and to make you stronger so that whatever else life throws at you, you can have this confidence that, man, I trust Jesus because he's that good. Number 3, write this down. Here's our third one. God can use your pain for his purpose. God can use your pain for his purpose. And man, a lot of us in this room, we have felt, or maybe right now, we are feeling a lot of pain in our life. Maybe it's something going on at home with a couple of our friends. Maybe it's at school. Maybe it's something that we're dealing with online. Man, let's be clear. In this story, the betrayal that Joseph is dealt with is not good. Like, his brothers go out of their way to try to get rid of him. And what they did was incredibly wrong and terrible. So I hope you don't leave this morning going, you're like, all right, I got to throw my brother in a pit. The Bible said that. Like, that's not what is going on here. But notice, God didn't call what they did was good. And oftentimes we think that whatever's going on in our lives, we're like, well, I guess God's allowing that to happen. Like, well, then can God be a good God if he allows evil in this world? And no. Like, there is free will in this world, and God allows things to happen because he is that sovereign. He is in that much control, and he is so powerful that whatever is meant to break you, to tear you down, God can use to build you up. Later on in this story, at the very last chapter in Genesis, what we see is his brothers come to Joseph, and Joseph says this to them. He says, you intended to harm me. I would say even more so, like, you tried to kill me. Like you did something terrible to me. But notice what Joseph says. He says, but God intended it for good, meaning like this had to happen. This is part of God's plan. And Joseph understood that later on. Joseph's brothers meant to hurt him, but God used it for good. And that is a huge plot twist. So here's the bottom line, is that your pain doesn't get the final word. God does. Like, your pain, your hurt isn't the end of your story. God's not done writing it. Again, this pit was a preparation. It's training for Joseph. And Joseph, he didn't know that till later on. And for some of us in this room, we're dealing with a lot of stuff right now. And God can use that to train you, to build you up so that when life gets crazy, you can have this confidence in Jesus and you go, man, I trust him because he's that good. Listen to this verse from the Apostle Paul. I love this in Romans, the second half of the Bible. He says this to the church in Rome. And we know that in all things, God works for the good of those who love him and who have been called according to his purpose. Wildlife, hear me. You may never understand why things happen in your life, but you can trust God that God's way is better. And don't just take my word for it. Look at all the stories in the Bible. Talk to your life group leaders in this room. I don't always understand why God allows things to happen, especially evil in this world, but I know who he is. I know his character. He's good. He's a good king, and a good king, remember, can be trusted. This is what I want you to catch. The pit in your story is not the end of your story. That maybe for you, you feel like you are in this deep, dark pit, maybe of destruction, of loneliness, of anxiety and fear, and you think this is the end. This is not the end. God is still using whatever is going on in your life for your own good, for his own glory, and our job is to listen and to follow, to ask questions, and to trust that God's way is better. But hear me, we don't just say like, I trust God, even though everything's going on. Like, we wrestle with that. I'm sure Joseph was crying out to God in that pit, like, what is going on? But he trusted that God's way is better. So let's get real. Like, for some of us in this room, like for you, you have been hurt maybe by a friend, a teammate, maybe by a teacher, a parent. Like, a lot of us have been hurt in this room, and you might be thinking, God, have you forgotten about me? And the truth is, he has never forgotten about you. And the plot twist is that God's not done with your story. I don't know where you're coming from. Maybe for you, something really traumatic has happened to you. But here's the truth is whatever they have said about you, whatever they have done to you, whatever has happened to you, God is still working in your story. And he's not done with you. So as the band comes up, here's our action step. A way we kind of talk about an action step here in Wildlife is like, hey, how can we live this out? How can we leave here today and ask the question, well, how can I live this out? Because if we're just like listening to this and we're like, oh, yeah, that sounds good. All right, cool. But we don't do anything about it, like, man, we need to be people of action and take action with our faith, not because that saves us, because as followers of Jesus, we need to take Jesus seriously. So here's our action step. So whatever has happened in your life, here's the thing. Give the hurt to God before it becomes bitterness. That for some of us in this room, we have felt deeply hurt by someone or something that has happened in our life. And the truth is that we need to give that hurt to God before it becomes bitterness. Now, bitterness simply is it's hurt that turns into anger that you won't let go of. So bitterness is anger in your life, it's hurt in your life that turns into anger that you are not willing to let go of. Maybe someone has hurt you so badly, and when you think about that person, what they did to you, you get so angry and you go, they will never hurt me again. They will never hurt me again, and you won't let go of it. So this week, when you feel hurt and that feeling comes back up, pause and say this simple prayer, God, would you be with me and would you help me? Or another prayer could be, God, hey, this hurts. Like you're honest with him, but I trust you with my story. I trust you with what's going on right now. And again, Wildlife, we don't have to understand it. We just have to trust that God's not done with our story. And this may take a few days, maybe a few weeks, maybe even several years. But we can trust God that he's not done with our story. Let's go ahead and pray. Jesus, thank you so much for this story of Joseph. And we're excited as we continue this series next weekend as we see what happens next in his story. Jesus, whatever's going on, whatever hurt, whatever feelings we're feeling right now, we just pray that we would have the confidence and the boldness, but more importantly, the courage to come to you, be honest with you, and give you our hurts so we don't hold on to it, so we don't get bitter towards other people. So Jesus, would you be with us as we head into this last song, as we talk about trusting you, because Jesus, you're good and we love you. It's in your name. Amen. Hey, I'm going to invite you guys to stand on up. You can leave, if you borrowed a Bible, you can leave them where you're at. We're going to go into this last song.